Everything you were taught about money growing up might be the exact reason you feel stuck today. That's a hard truth to hear, but if you've been working hard, doing what you were told, and still not getting ahead, then something isn't adding up. You followed the rules. You tried to be responsible. You did what was considered right. And yet, the results don't match the effort. That frustration you feel, that quiet question in your mind asking, why is this not working for me? That's exactly what this is about. Here's the truth most people never say out loud. The money advice passed down to you wasn't designed for the world you're living in today. It wasn't meant to hold you back, and it definitely wasn't meant to ruin your future. Your parents gave you what they believed was the safest path, but the world has changed, and the rules that once worked don't work the same anymore. What used to lead to stability can now lead to stagnation. You were taught to play it safe, to follow a certain path, to trust that if you stayed consistent, everything would fall into place. But today, people are following that same path and finding themselves overworked, underpaid, and constantly chasing financial peace that never quite arrives. That's not because you're doing something wrong. It's because the system you're following is outdated. In this video, you're going to uncover the money lie that quietly shaped your thinking for years without you even realizing it. More importantly, you're going to see why it no longer works and what actually does. Because once you understand this, everything starts to make sense. And more importantly, everything can start to change. Where these beliefs came from. Before you start questioning everything you were taught, it's important to understand where those beliefs actually came from. Because the truth is, your parents didn't set you up to fail. They taught you what they genuinely believed would protect you. They were operating from a completely different world, a world where the rules of money, work, and success were not the same as they are today. Back then, job security was real. You could get a stable job, stay loyal to one company for years, and be rewarded for it. Promotions came with time, not constant competition. Hard work inside one system was often enough to build a decent life. Your parents learned that consistency, patience, and loyalty were the safest paths forward. And for their time, that was true. It worked. It paid the bills. It created stability. The cost of living was also different. Basic needs like housing, education, and daily expenses were far more manageable compared to today. You didn't need multiple income streams just to stay afloat. Saving money actually felt like progress because the value of money wasn't being eroded as aggressively as it is now. So naturally, they passed down the idea that saving, staying employed, and avoiding risk was the smartest way to live. And then there's access to information. Your parents didn't grow up with the internet, online businesses, or endless financial education at their fingertips. Opportunities were limited, and most people followed the same path because they didn't know there were other options. Their mindset was built around survival, making sure there was always enough, avoiding loss and minimizing uncertainty. So when they advised you to play it safe, get a secure job, and avoid anything risky, it came from a place of protection, not limitation. But here's the part that changes everything. They taught you what worked for them, not what works now. And if you try to apply yesterday's rules to today's world, you don't get the same results. Instead, you end up stuck, confused, and wondering why doing everything right still doesn't feel like it's enough. The 5 money lies. Let's break down the beliefs that quietly shape how you think about money. The ones that sound right, feel safe, but slowly keep you stuck. These are the money lies most people grow up believing. And unless you question them, they control your financial future without you even realizing it. The first lie is simple and familiar. Go to school, get a good job, and you'll be safe. This one feels almost unquestionable because it's repeated everywhere by parents, teachers, and society. And to be fair, it used to work. Education led to employment, and employment led to stability. But today, that path doesn't guarantee safety anymore. People graduate with degrees and still struggle to find well-paying jobs. Others get jobs only to realize their income is fixed while their expenses keep rising. Even worse, jobs are no longer secure. Companies downsize, industries change, and suddenly, something that felt stable disappears overnight. The truth is, a job can give you income, but it rarely gives you freedom. The new reality is this: your security should not come from a job title. It should come from your skills. Skills that can earn in different ways, in different places, and on your own terms. The second lie is one you've probably followed without thinking. Save money and you'll become rich. Saving sounds responsible, and it is, to a point. But saving alone is not a wealth strategy. You might put money aside every month thinking you're making progress, but over time, inflation quietly eats away at that money's value. Prices go up, but your savings stay the same. That means your money is actually losing power while it sits still. You end up doing everything right and still falling behind. The real truth is that money needs to grow. It needs to move, to be invested, to work for you instead of just sitting in an account. Saving protects money, but investing multiplies it. The third lie feels like common sense. Avoid risk at all costs. You were probably told to stay away from anything uncertain, anything that could lead to loss. And again, this sounds smart. Nobody wants to lose money. But here's the problem. Avoiding all risk is actually one of the biggest risks you can take. When you refuse to try anything new, you stay in the same position year after year. You don't explore better opportunities. You don't build new income streams, and you don't grow. Meanwhile, the world keeps moving forward. The truth is, there's a difference between reckless risk and calculated risk. The people who move ahead are not the ones who avoid risk completely. They are the ones who learn how to understand it, manage it, and use it to their advantage. The fourth lie is one that creates fear almost instantly. Debt is always bad. Many people grow up believing that all debt should be avoided at all costs. And yes, some types of debt can absolutely trap you. Things like high-interest loans for things that don't add value to your life. But not all debt is the same. The wealthy understand something most people don't. Debt, when used correctly, can be a tool. It can help you acquire assets, build businesses, or create opportunities that generate more money than the debt itself. The problem is not debt, it's how it's used. Avoiding all debt might feel safe, but it can also limit your ability to grow. The real truth is this: learn the difference between bad debt that drains you and good debt that can build something bigger than you could on your own. The fifth and perhaps most dangerous lie is this: work hard and success will come. This belief is deeply rooted in how most people are raised. You're told that effort equals reward, that if you just keep pushing, things will eventually fall into place. But look around. There are people working extremely hard every single day and still struggling financially. Hard work alone is not the problem, but hard work without direction, without strategy, and without leverage leads to exhaustion, not success. If all your income depends on your time and energy, there's a limit to how far you can go. The truth is, it's not just about working harder. It's about working smarter. It's about building systems, using leverage, and creating ways for money to come in that don't rely entirely on your time. When you step back and really look at these beliefs, you start to see the pattern. Each one sounds safe, logical, and responsible. But in today's world, following them without question can quietly hold you back. And that's the moment things begin to shift. When you realize that the problem isn't your effort, it's the rules you've been following all along. The hidden damage of these money lies now. Here's the part most people try to ignore: the cost of holding on to these beliefs. Because it's not just about being a little behind or missing a few opportunities. Over time, it becomes your entire reality. You wake up every day, go to work, Earn your income, and by the end of the month, most of it is already gone. Bills, responsibilities, unexpected expenses. It feels like no matter how hard you try, there's never enough left. You tell yourself you just need to work harder, maybe pick up extra hours, maybe cut back a little more. But deep down, there's a quiet frustration building because you're doing everything you were told to do, and it still doesn't feel like progress. That constant pressure starts to affect how you think. Money becomes a source of stress instead of a tool for freedom. You hesitate to make decisions, you second-guess opportunities, and you avoid anything that feels uncertain. You stay in situations that drain you because they feel safe. And years pass like this, working, surviving, repeating, without ever really moving forward. It's not just financial, it's emotional. It's the feeling of being stuck, of knowing you're capable of more, but not knowing how to break out of the cycle. But the moment you see it clearly, something begins to change. You start to realize that it's not your effort that's the problem. It's the way you've been taught to think about money. And that's where the shift begins. Instead of chasing job security, you start focusing on skill security, building abilities that can earn income in different ways, no matter what happens. Instead of only saving money and hoping it's enough, you begin to understand the importance of growing it, even in small, consistent steps. Instead of fearing risk and avoiding it completely, you start learning how to understand it, manage it, and take calculated steps forward. And instead of believing that working harder is the answer, you begin to see the power of leverage, using your time, your skills, and even systems to create results that go beyond your physical effort. This doesn't mean everything changes overnight. It doesn't mean you suddenly have it all figured out, but it means you're no longer trapped in the same thinking that kept you stuck. You start seeing options where you once saw limits. You start making decisions with clarity instead of fear. And that's the turning point, when you move from blindly following what you were taught to consciously choosing what actually works for you. How to move forward. Now that you see the truth, the next step is simple. Not easy, but simple. You don't need to change everything overnight. You just need to start moving in a different direction. Begin by focusing on skills that actually have value in today's world. Not just what looks good on paper, but what can create income in different ways. Skills that give you flexibility, not dependency. At the same time, start paying attention to your money. You don't need anything complicated. Just know where it's going, because the moment you become aware, you take back control. Then, take the next step and start growing your money, even if it's small. It's not about how much you start with. It's about building the habit of making your money work for you. And just as important, change what you consume daily. The information you feed your mind shapes how you think, and how you think shapes every financial decision you make. If you keep surrounding yourself with the same ideas, nothing changes. But when you expose yourself to new perspectives, new strategies, and new ways of thinking, you start to see opportunities you couldn't see before. And through all of this, keep questioning what you were taught. Not with disrespect, but with awareness. Because growth begins the moment you stop accepting everything as absolute truth. This is where the real shift happens. You're not stuck because you're lazy or incapable. You are simply following rules that no longer apply. And now you see it. You see what most people never stop to question. You see why working harder wasn't fixing the problem. You see why saving alone wasn't enough. And more importantly, you see that there is another way. A smarter way, a more intentional way. From this point forward, you're no longer just going through the motions. You're thinking differently. You're moving differently. You're building something that actually makes sense for the world you live in today. And that changes everything. Because the moment you question what you were taught is the moment your life starts to change.